talked about it on the Pick and Roll podcast Wednesday with me, Mitch Kofsky, Blaze the Radio, Rios from Just Fans Podcast, in episode 103. We talked about the Sixers' little streak they were going on. I said that part of the reason why was because their big three was finally playing together. But I also said, give them more time. Let's see where they go from here. Well, last night, we'll just say, that was jinxed.
Fasten your seatbelts for the realest Eagles and Sixers YouTuber! One who plays no clickbait and gets to the point! The myth, the legend, Nicky Steves! Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. I'm simply statue, think they slate, dropping unrealistic man, 2K takes for the clip. Even though cats like that get views closer to the millie, never hear me preach, look on to Philly. Before you watch the Eagles all the way through the early 22, authentic talk, forget what others do. Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keep things real. The 24/7, 365 way. Sports content for the reals that feel the day.
Look, teams lose games. It happens. I understand we lost on New Year's Day to the Sacramento Kings without Embiid. Okay, it was at least a competitive game. Still kind of embarrassing because the Kings are struggling, but I can at least accept it. But last night against the Warriors, with your supposed big three, you get blown out 139-105. You nearly got blown out by 40 points against the Golden State Warriors, who are a shell of their former selves. Klay Thompson's gone from the original big three before KD joined, and y'all got blown out with your big three. It goes to show you that Sixers still have a long way to go, and that little streak they were on was around Christmas and New Year was just that. It was a small little streak. Yeah, we got the win against Boston Christmas Day, which has been the highlight so far in an otherwise disappointing season. But last night reaffirmed that this has been a disappointing season, that this big three it's not clicking. Now, granted, it is still only the third day of the year. There's still time for this team to get it together. But after the way they played last night, I don't see it happening. I don't. Even though technically and theoretically they could turn it around, I'm just not seeing it. I mean, the way they played last night, granted, Embiid had 28 points on 31 minutes to his 14 rebounds, to his credit. And, Paul George still at 19 off 32 minutes, which is respectable. So I'll give them that. But Maxey last night just had an off night. Granted, I'm not going to hold a grudge against him because even the best players have their disappointing games. But the bottom line is Maxey was the most disappointing player in that embarrassing loss to the Warriors. And oh my gosh, this team, nothing on defense. Let Steph Curry cook for 30 points. Jonathan Kuminga had 20. You had Moses Moody had 12. Draymond had 15. Andrew Wiggins had 15. Dennis Schroeder had 15. They were moving around scoring points. For the Sixers, you just had Embiid, Paul George, Maxey. You had Gershon, had 13. Council had 12. But outside of that, what did the rest of this team do? And you had Reggie Jackson had 2 points off 8 minutes. And you had no Kelly Oubre to help out. That was a big factor. And obviously this team's missing Jared McCain as well. So that's the other factor, injuries. Jared McCain was off to a hot start, and now he's not there. Kelly Oubre's missing games. Throughout the season, you have a bunch of players. Here's the thing with the Sixers. I'll put it this way. We'll put it this way to kind of explain what's been the problem with the Sixers throughout the season. On paper, they have a good roster on paper. You look at their roster. Embiid, Maxey, Paul George, who's, not at the prime of his career, but could still be a respectable player. Ricky Council, Kelly Oubre, Gershon Yabusele. It looks like a decent roster on paper. Caleb Martin, who, by the way, let's not forget, he was a big disappointment. Only 2 points on 22 minutes in that blowout loss. But the point being is, on paper, this looks like a decent roster. But here's the problem. Seems like every game, one or two of those key players that could help are out. Last night, the big three was in. Kelly Oubre was out. The game before that against the Kings on New Year's Day, Oubre and Embiid were out. Early in the season, no Paul George, no Embiid. Maxey had to carry the weight of the team out of all those guys, and you saw them get off to a slow start. One of the biggest problems has been availability of this team. You can have on paper a talented roster, but if they don't get playing time together, which is the best form of practice in any sport, in-game time is the best form of practice, and they're not in the game. They're not playing together. It seems like always somebody's missing. Now, that's in part load management, but it's in part durability as well. It's both. But that's part of the problem. What happens when you get two of your main big three players have a long injury history. That's the risk you take by bringing in two. We got already one player, former MVP, but an injury-prone player, Paul George, who is a former multi-time All-Star, but also has dealt with a lot of injuries, which has held him back from his true potential. So you took a big risk bringing him in and paying him a lot to be the number 3 guy. And then, so you bring them in. You've dealt with availability issues with them. If those guys are playing, it's always somebody else out. It's Kelly Oubre out. So part of the problem is we haven't been able to get this whole team together on the court long enough to form chemistry. That's part of the problem in itself. Another part of the problem is the morale in the locker room, like we saw earlier in the season with the drama with Embiid and Maxey and those guys. Part of the problem. And Nick Nurse's coaching style doesn't resemble the coaching style of a former NBA championship winning head coach. It's not resembling it as well as we thought. So those are some of the main problems with the Sixers that have been consistent throughout the season. And after a brief hot streak, we saw come New Year's, Sixers are going right back to their problems. This is why I personally don't trust them to turn it around. Because just when it looked like they had hope, they start slipping back into their old problems, such as unavailability, team not playing together well, and who knows what's going to happen. It's just one of those things, I think personally the Sixers are closer to blowing it up. I feel like in the long term, it's kind of weird to say this after Embiid had a good game yesterday, and he was one of the highlights in an otherwise terrible game for the Sixers. But I still feel like in the long term, we might have to move on from him for durability reasons and all the drama we had earlier. I'm thinking sometime in the offseason, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But man, disappointing game last night. I don't know if the Sixers are going to be able to make any big moves around the trade deadline this time. I know like I said, I've said this before, they could turn around, but I don't see it happening, so I'm not even going to harp on that. I don't think there's going to be a big trade the Sixers could pull off around the trade deadline. I just think they'll have to ride it out this season. Whatever happens, happens. I hate to say that, but I think we'll have to wait till the summer to make some big moves. But this has been a disappointing season, man. This team can't get on the court long enough. They can't get all the right players on the court at the same time. And it's just been a disaster all season. Kyle Lowry, he only got 10 minutes last night, so I'm not mad. But there have been some games he's getting way too much playing time. He should be in that Udonis Haslem role like he was in Miami late in his career at the end of the bench as that veteran. That's the role Kyle Lowry should be in, but he's being utilized too much by Nick Nurse. So I understand why Kyle Lowry's here, but they're not utilizing him in the right way. They're utilizing him in the wrong way, and it's making him somewhat of a detriment when he gets a lot of playing time. Last night he only got 10 minutes, so he wasn't the main problem. But the main problem is they're utilizing him too much. Instead of utilizing him as the mentor, they're trying to utilize him as that starter that he's not anymore. And it's just, all season long, it's just been a disaster with coaching, player, load management, injuries, all that. We'll just have to see where it goes from here. I mean, you guys comment, let me know what you think. But yeah, last night's loss was kind of that reinforcement of, all right, we're back to our same old problems as a team. I mean, all big three played, but Maxey had a poor game. I mean, it's just one game, but it happens. But even then, no Kelly Oubre to help out. Caleb Martin disappointed. It's just like, it always seems like one reason or another something goes wrong. I'll leave it at that. You guys comment, let me know what you think. Till next time, it's your boy Nicky Stees signing off. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done for more Sixers, NBA, Eagles, or NFL related content. I'll catch you next time.